Welcome to the Fantasy Thinker. I'm Jared Quartermatch, and today we are going to do, by popular demand, a bunch of short reviews in one long video because I put out my first poll ever on YouTube, and you guys voted pretty overwhelmingly for me to do it in this fashion rather than put out a whole bunch of separate little short reviews. I'm going to be doing one long video with a whole bunch of short reviews in it. And so that's it was interesting. I never did a poll before, so it was fun. Anyways, so that's what you guys wanted, and that's what I'm going to do. Like I said in the poll, these reviews are not written out, so I'm doing them all kind of off the cuff and from what I remember over the past 4 months or so for all these books, and so might be a little rough, but we'll see. So to get right into the first one, I will be talking about Red Shirts by John Scalzi. Yeah, and so this book was the winner of the Hugo Award for Best Novel in 2012, in which I guess the Hugo Awards are voted on by a bunch of members, and they picked the one they liked the best, and this was the winner. I can't say I understand why myself. I liked the book enough. It was short. And very easy to read and went by very quickly. The joke of the book is, of course, the name Red Shirts. It is a joke that has been tossed around in Star Trek, in other shows like Star Trek, where the guy in the red shirt is a secondary or even tertiary character that nobody cares about, goes with the main characters and ends up getting killed off or maimed or kidnapped or injured in some manner, what have you. And of course all the main characters are like, no, but they get over it the next episode. So and that's the running joke in here, is that the so-called red shirts in this book are the characters we're talking about, are the characters we're concerned with, and they kind of figure out what's going on, and they want to do something about it. And so this book, it really gets into the metafictional aspect of storytelling, where the characters are actually trying to subvert the actual narrative of what's going on around them, and trying to figure out why these things keep happening to them, and trying to avoid getting killed. And so it's funny. The joke is funny. I think the joke gets old by the time 2/3 of the way through, and it's still going on, and I'm kind of like, okay, where's this going? But eventually things resolve, and the third half of the book, or I would say the last quarter of the book, really, he actually delves into a deeper metafictional narrative, and I actually enjoy that a bit more myself. Some people don't, but I thought Scalzi really picked up his writing and his philosophical aspects in the book at that point, and I really thought he pulled his ideas together, and his theme was kind of like, what do the characters, when they take a life of their own on after the writer's done, what do they mean to the writer, and how does a writer live with those characters that he's created or destroyed, and how do the people who how do the audience, those who read about these characters and get invested with them, how do they live on with the audience, and how do they live on with us, and how does they affect us when they pass away, or are otherwise incapacitated in the story. And what does that mean to us? And, so there's all these deep thematic thoughts upon storytelling and character and metafictional aspects of what the characters think about all this. And so it's very interesting in that respect. The short, like I said, the book was very short. It went by quickly, and so it's the prose is easy to read. And there were times, especially in the first, 2/3 or so of the book, where the characters, I really couldn't. It was hard to tell who was talking to who sometimes because he does quick dialogue action type thing, and the characters weren't succinct enough to really tell the difference between their dialogue. Um, and but it went by fast, so it wasn't too much of a hindrance to my enjoyment of the book, and I did enjoy the book. I wouldn't have given it a 5 star or anything like that, or it wasn't my favorite book of the my favorite read of the month or the year or whatever. But it was okay, and I was glad I read it. It was funny. It was a diversion. It's something nice to read in between big epic tomes. So that is Red Shirts by John Scalzi. All right. Next up is Martian Timeslip by Philip K. Dick. So like I said before, there was a reason why I was like delayed in doing a lot of reviews on a lot of this stuff here. Time being the number one factor. But with this book, it was also due to the fact that I wasn't sure for quite a while how I felt about it. And I was going back and forth and back and forth, and I had a discussion with this because this is part of the Sci-Fi Masterworks read along, and I had a discussion with my friends about this book, and and it helped me piece together some ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. But I really didn't know what to do for a review because, as you know, most of my reviews I write them out and I try to put an entertaining spin on them in some manner that's relevant to the book itself, and something that goes a little deeper than just telling you my reaction. And so, but for this one, it took me a while to think about because there were some things about the book that kind of turned me off, and that was the bad about it. Just the ignorance of the time period about attitudes towards indigenous people reflected in the indigenous Martian population in this story. Martian Timeslip, it takes place on Mars, and there is a dying out indigenous Martian population there, and it was just too close to representing certain things in our own planet here that was kind of wasn't really explored in a satisfactory way, I would say. But that was minor in the book, and there was also Philip Dick's representation of an autistic character, which hits pretty close to home for me. Because several of my kids have one form of autism or another, and so it really hit me the wrong way because this was written back in the early 60s and they really didn't know much about autism back then. They had of course, if this was written today, it would be quite a different book, I think. But that said, it's a minor part of the story, a minor part of the book. It has some important aspects to it, but really the story was more about colonization of Mars, and the power plays that happen because of that. And so the story delves into that. We have a couple of likable characters to start out with, but we also have one very unlikable character who espouses some of the nonsense that we would definitely not want to put up with these days. But beyond that, the character gets explored quite a bit, and so you start to see why he acts the way he does and where he's coming from, and you start to actually, um, like, I wouldn't say cheer for, but you're entertained by his antics and by what he does to try to hold on to his place in this society and his power. And so it was interesting from that aspect. And Philip K. Dick does, he does throw out big ideas here and there, and he really is great at plotting out a story. So the plot of the novel is very good. It serves the story well, and it has an excellent resolution. I like the ending. I like how he wrapped it all up. I like how he tied everything together, and it wasn't it wasn't mind blowing or anything like that, but it was really done well. And you start to see some of the because this was written before Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and you start to see some of his ideas coalescing in this narrative prior to him writing Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. And so I think he perfected his craft a little more before he got to Androids, and I think Androids is a little bit better of a book. But overall, this one, it's not a bad read at all. I have a little bit of personal bias towards some of the things said in the beginnings of the book as the story got along. But once the story got along, it actually is quite enjoyable of a read, and it actually is. It is a good time, and if you're a fan of Philip K. Dick, I think you would like this one as well if you haven't already read it. And I think that, and if you're a fan of stories that take place on Mars in a colonization type fashion, that there's not much science that goes into explaining how this all comes about. It's that's kind of the fantasy part, so that's cool. I like that. But and if you're a fan of that, that kind of a story, then this could be the book for you. And next up, we have two books: Children of Ruin and Children of Memory. Books 2 and 3, respectively, of the Children of whatever trilogy. The first one was Children of Time. I did a review on Children of Time, so you can look that up in my reviews playlist. And these two books are the next two books, Children of Ruin being the second one. And so what we have here is, in Children of Ruin, we are introduced to another species, transformed, evolutionized, I guess, by humans to take on sentience, and that is octopus, cephalopods, and so with these cephalopods, we kind of go through the same thing that we went through with spiders, except it doesn't get quite as detailed as the spiders, so he doesn't repeat himself too much, but it does get repetitive in that the octopus basically they're evolved like the spiders in this book. And so I don't want to give too much away, and that's part of the reason why I wasn't really doing dedicated reviews to both Children of Ruin and Children of Memory, is because it kind of gives too much away, even doing a review of the first book if you haven't read it. And if you haven't, the opposite side of that is, if you haven't read the first book, why are you reading a review of the next ones? And I think part of that is that some people might think it's possible to read these as standalones. And in a way you could, and get the whole story, and you get it fine. It's nothing too complex, so you would get it. But I think there's something to be said for reading these as a trilogy, because I think it, especially the third book, but I think the things tie together better. I think if they're read in the order they were supposed to be read. So Children of Ruin. Um, I wasn't as impressed with this volume as I was with Children of Time. Like I said, he repeats the kind of the theme from Children of Time a little bit, and it just wasn't as interesting, and it wasn't as compelling for that part of it. This book does introduce a an actual alien species that's not created by humans or has to do with human interaction or what have you. So that is very interesting. He continues his themes of dealing with AI consciousness and whether that is real or comes about, or how that plays into things, and that's tied into how the alien interacts with the characters in this book. So that being said, I thought with Children of Memory, he really, I think he kind of upped his game a little bit. I think Children of Memory delves into the themes of memory and of storytelling in and of itself, and I really like how he pulled it off in here. And because of what you saw in the earlier books, everything comes around and kind of gets involved in here with adaptation and memory and how it ties into identity and what that all ties into, like what is sentience, what does it mean to be sentient, and all these questions get asked in this book. And I thought Tchaikovsky really came around and tied everything up pretty nicely with this book, and I really liked how he talks and introduces to what stories do to make us who we are, and I think that's very well done in this book. I really liked it. And I heard there's a fourth one coming, so it's not a trilogy. It's just a series. How about that? So there you go. Children of Ruin and Children of Memory by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And up next we have And Mankind Created the Gods by Joseph Behe. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but this is a monster of a graphic novel. Hefty. And this graphic novel is an adaptation of Pascal Boyer's Religion Explained. This is non-fiction, folks. I do that sometimes. And so it's very strange to think that a philosophical work, a work of neurological science and philosophy, could be adapted into comic book form. But let me assure you, Joseph Behe does it very well. We have some. I happen to open up to a guy in a Spider-Man costume. That's funny. But anyways, yeah. So as you can see, the artwork's pretty well done. It's detailed. It's realistic in its portrayal, and he really knows how to use the panels to move the eye along in order to make this non-fictional thing kind of into a story, and I really admired the way he did that. So it is it's a very nice package. It's very it was quite easy to read. I liked how we were able to follow along in this non-fictional story. The premise is, of course, taking a neurological look at the brain and how it works, and trying to figure out um, religion and trying to explain it. And he does that with the conceit of somebody having a throwing a dinner party and inviting guests to this dinner party. It's in some sort of exotic locale. It doesn't really specify where or what, but um, but it's isolated so that you're there and you're gonna end up listening to this guy as he starts to explain um, how he came about this these topics. And so I really like how it was done. To be honest, there were a lot of clunky info dump parts where the narrator seems a bit, um, I don't know, full of himself, I guess. He comes off a bit abrasive because he's kind of like a know-it-all. Um, and the arguments that his guests put forth in order to either just to ask for further explanation or to refute what he's saying are kind of weak, and so he always talks him down and talks him away from those arguments. So it is a little one-sided in that manner, but with that said, there's a lot of good information in here, and I'm going through the book now. I'm trying to find a particular page that that kind of sums up the whole book, because what he's doing here is he's asking a whole bunch of questions, as any good scientist should. You want to ask questions, and you want to, and that's the basis of scientific inquiry, is continuing to ask questions or continuing to improve upon your answers. Answers in science aren't static; they are evolving, and so that's how science should work. So the questions that he asks are: why does religion exist more or less everywhere? Why does it come in different forms? Do these forms have anything in common? Why does religion matter so much to people's lives? Why does religion prescribe rituals? And why are these rituals the way they are? Why do most religions have specialists, like priests and what have you? Why does religion seem to hold the truth? Good question. Why are there churches and religious institutions? Why does religion persist in the face of scientific reasoning? Why does religion trigger strong emotions? Why do people kill in its name? Which is kind of almost the same question. Why is it conducive to heroism and to sacrifice? Why do some people believe? So that is a whole bunch of questions. Big idea questions that this guy, that Boyer, tried to explain and religion explained, and that I think Behe puts in a palatable format, I would say. So, because he really does delve into the neuroscience in here, so it gets quite technical at some points. And so, keep all that in mind as you go through this and try to think about whether this is something for you. Like I said, the artwork is enjoyable to look at, so it is worth it for that. And the ideas are, they're there. They're all the questions I just mentioned, and the science is there if you can make your way through it. And it's enough of a story just to keep you slightly interested. to see what these characters are going to make of this guy spouting out all this information. So, with that said, that is, and mankind created the gods. And next up is the Demolished Man by Alfred Bester. This is the second book I've read by Bester in the Sci-Fi Masterwork series. For the Sci-Fi Masterwork series, read along we're doing on pagechewing.com. So go check that out. This is, once again, like Philip Dick, who I talked about earlier, The Demolished Man was written before the other work known by Bester, which was The Stars My Destination. And The Demolished Man also seems to be a precursor of sorts for some of the ideas and themes that Bester wanted to get out, and that he kind of kept going with The Stars My Destination, or even improved upon. I think one of the reasons I didn't initially do a review for this book was because it was kind of so similar thematically to The Stars My Destination, and it has a very similar tone and a similar unlikable character. In this case, the character is, he just like any other book. He's not a nice person. He's a bad guy. He's actually a criminal in this book. But it's very clever how Bester goes about telling us about his criminality, and how the advent, what the name The Demolished Man means, and how it all comes about, and the I don't remember the main character's name, but he's kind of despicable, but he's fascinating to watch. You can't look away, like a train wreck or something like that. You're watching this character come up with this crazy stuff and these plans and all this shenanigans to try to better his situation. And it's like, you shake your head at it. You kind of rooting and cheer for him, even though you know you shouldn't. And it's just it's very clever how it all comes about, and it's a fun read. It's short. It's a short book, The Demolished Man, and it's a really fun read. And I enjoyed it immensely. I enjoy Bester's writing. It's a lot of fun, his writing, and I definitely recommend it. As far as like when you should read this one, and I don't think it really matters whether you read this one or The Stars My Destination. It is a completely separate story and separate cast of characters. It's not like it's a shared universe or anything like that. So, read The Demolished Man if you get a chance. It was fun, and hopefully that's what you'll get out of it too. And next up is The Man Who Risked His Partner by Stephen R. Donaldson. Some of you may recognize this name from the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever. And Stephen Donaldson is the author of those very famous fantasy novels. This is not fantasy. It is detective noir, crime fiction. This was a series of books that Donaldson wrote back in the 80s under the pseudonym of Reed Stevens, I believe. And it had since been republished under his name, Stephen Donaldson. This was a pleasant surprise for me. It's been a while since I read a Donaldson book, like a year and a half now, almost 2 years. And so I was quite happy to get back into Donaldson's work here. And I always meant to get around to reading these crime fiction books, and I just, for some reason, it just, time passes. So, uh, but man, nobody writes like Donaldson does. He has he has a unique way of getting you into the character's head and really defining character. Nobody defines character motivation and character thought and psychology better than Donaldson does. Um, Many have tried, and you know, it's just he really has it down. And not only that, but this book is done in the style of Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett, and the Maltese Falcon, and Philip Marlowe, and all those things. And Donaldson nails it. He just really nailed the genre. From what I know of it, it's not the genre I have the most experience in. I'm more of a fantasy reader, of course. That's my name. But uh, man, he just got it. He just knows. And yet he still maintains that the inner psychology that Donaldson's known for his characters. The main character in this book is Mick Axbruder, P.I., and Ginny Fistulari, P.I. So yeah, those are those are PI names. Of course, it fits perfectly, and he you know he takes his characters through their paces. He takes them to their lowest point, which is classic Donaldson fare, and he brings them out of it kicking and screaming and transforming, and in this really empathic way. Just beautifully done. And I had a lot of fun reading this. It's not that long. It's only just over 280 pages, um and I had a lot of fun with this thing, even though it's not in my typical genre. I just love his writing so much, and it's definitely worth the read if you can get any of these books. There's 4 books in this Axe Bruder Mitch, is it Mitch? Yeah, Mick Axbruder series. There's 4 books in there. This was actually the second one, which is why I hesitated doing a review on it, because I didn't read the first one, and so um, I know that a couple of things from the first book are spoiled in here, because he kind of had to use what happened in that first book as a setup for characterization of the characters in this book, and it all fits perfectly. But you don't really need. I didn't need to read the first book in order to understand what was going on here. I perfectly understood it, but it does give away what happens in the first book. But it's not going to put me off to reading that first book whenever I get around to getting a copy of it. I'm definitely going to read more of these, because I would really like to finish off the whole Donaldson collection, which I have except for these. So, in this, reading this, finding this, when I did at ICFA, and reading this definitely gives me the impetus to do that. So, yes, definitely read Stephen Donaldson's The Man Who Risked His Partner. All right, next up is Dreamer Awake by Liam Hall. You may recognize that name. He's a friend of ours on BookTube. He runs the BookTube channel Liam's Lyceum. And he came out with this short novella earlier last month. I think it was early September. And so I was like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll pick that up. And I checked it out. And if you like a fast-paced, action-oriented sword and sorcery romp, then this is the novella for you. It goes by at an extremely brisk pace. It has pretty decent characterization in the sense that the main character is she awakens, like dreamer awake, and she has no memory of who she is, but she has all these skills, very sword and sorcery fashion, like, yeah. And so the whole quest is her finding out her identity, finding out who she is, and so we get to find along. We get to find out along with her, and so that's a really good story vehicle method to bring the reader into the story and find out along with the character what's going on. So the like I said, the story moves quickly, and you find out some stuff, and it's kind of a revenge story. So if you like that, you're gonna like this as well. I had fun with the story. I thought it was entertaining. It came to a good conclusion, and it didn't ever bog down or anything like that. There were a couple of points where I thought some of the prose was a little clunky in very small areas, just like a minor stuff. But overall, a well paced action sword and sorcery style story that was pretty cool. It was well done. I thought Liam did a great job on his self-published foray here. So this was a self-published section of my group of reviews here. So and so yeah, check it out if you get a chance, and check out Liam's channel. He'll have all the information. I think it's on Amazon, so I think you can get it right there too as well. And it's a fun time. Dreamer Awake. All right, and we have saved the best for last. Traitor's Knot by Janny Wurts. This near masterpiece of a book here is book 7 in the Wars of Light and Shadow, and it's the 4th book in the Alliance of Light story arc. And that's pretty key here because it's a penultimate book in the Alliance of Light story arc. And once again, the reason why I haven't done a review for this book is because it's this 7th book in a series of 11. So, what can you say about this book without, giving away all the stuff that's happened in the previous 6 books? I mean, just a very cover gives you a hint that somebody's still alive, right? All right, so it's that's how it goes with these big series, is that you're inevitably going to give us stuff away. But but anybody who's watching this review probably has already been subjected to the other books in the Wars of Light and Shadow, and probably knows that what it's all about if they're checking out this review particular. Or it is a review within a bunch of other reviews, so you can always skip ahead on any of these reviews, or skip, or go back, or what have you. So that said, Traitor's Knot continues on the story in a awesome fashion. Wurts, she includes all the themes in this book that we've come to know throughout the series. The light versus shadow, and the perception of what is light and what is shadow, and perception of how the public views this, and how they look at themselves, and what kind of effects that continue to resonate within these characters all the way back from book 1, Curse of the Mistwraith. And that is very, very key in this book. The Curse of the Mistwraith. It's the ramifications of what happened in that first book are smack us in the face in this book here. And that is very, very key. And I love how it was done. And it was done there's so many ideas thrown into this book, and the funny thing is, as you're reading along in this series, you get so attuned to Wurtz's style of writing, and you get so attuned to what she's doing that it starts to read very quicker than maybe some of the earlier books, because it's like she's rewired your brain as you're reading this series in order to accommodate to her style and her the way she tells a story, and the formatting she uses in here. There's like the 3 sections per chapter, and so I am beginning to suspect that Janny Wurts is indeed a Mistwraith. I know that's a joke I've told before, but hey, it works because there is not many authors out there like this today who has the depth of vocabulary and the the depth of meaning within the prose that she places in every sentence, in every paragraph, in every chapter. And I just can't say enough about this series. It's really great. It's probably going to go down as one of my favorite series in the world, in my favorite series ever. Right up there with all my other favorite series, Mal's and the Covenant series, and the Wars of Light and Shadow. They're all wonderful. And so, is there anything in this book that is unique to this book and not the rest of the series? I would say yes, but then I'd have to give stuff away, and you might not like that. But there's some characterization of certain characters in here that are unique to this book, in the sense that, and it's hinted at in the title, Traitor's not. And so you get what thematically it means to be a traitor, and what it means for that traitor to weave things in a fashion that creates knots for our antagonists and protagonists as well. So, yeah, I guess we can go with that. Yeah, but that's So this is the difficulty of doing a review of a seventh book in a 11-book series, and yeah, go and check out our discussions on this. They're a lot of fun. We've done them on my channel, and you'll see what we mean if you've read the books, and you'll see how much there is to discuss about these books. There's a lot to discuss, and there's a lot going on, and I am looking forward to the next one, Storm Fortress. So, best of the best here in this big clump of massive reviews, or short reviews in a massive clump. Traitors Not by Janny Wurts, and thank you for sticking with me throughout this whole presentation, and I hope you enjoyed all of these short reviews that I did. Thank you for those who voted to have me do it all in one big video. I hope when I go to edit this, it works out okay. All right, and as always, be good to each other. Thank you.